One, we are here to present to you the involving the guests or the co-creating of value. Let's proceed to the slide one of the presentation. Guests to co-create value. The co-creating is when there is involvement of guests that leads to value and to quality experience. Let's talk about how is this essential to our hospitality department according to Graham 2015, since interaction with hotel guests has become so important in the hotel industry. This is an ideal environment for co-creator to tell that implement co-creation to gain a significant competitive advantage. However, a majority of coexisting or co-creation efforts in the hotel industry are more forms of marketing combined with customer engagement than the actual co-creation. Second, the social networking and blogs. Nowadays, social media have been used by some companies to support customer co-creation where consumer can publicize their opinions about product and services. In today's instant access to information environment, the hospitality organization can access guest comments via designated web page, blogs, or social networking sites like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to find out what his guests are saying about things that make them satisfied and dissatisfied, even by tweeting their opinions while they are still co-creating the service. It is refers to a way of working service providers and users work together to reach a collective outcome. It is an approach value driven and built on the principle that those who are affected by a service are best placed to help design it. During the hospitality experience, management can use a variety of strategies to engage the guests in the co-production of that experience so that they co-create value and the quality. The guests can help. Guests as quasi-employee. Hospitality organization know they must help manage the confusion, the stress, and the uncertainty. One way is by training the employees in both job skills and the management of guest co-production. Another effective strategy for managing this confusion is to think of guests as quasi-employees and manage them accordingly. There are three steps for managing quasi-employees according to Benjamin Schneider and David Bowen. The first step is to define roles. The second step is set clear expectations. And the third step is to evaluate guest ability and willingness to perform well. Let's discuss the first step for managing quasi-employees. It is a carefully and completely define the roles you want guests to play. In effect, do a job analysis, similar to that developed in Chapter 5 for employees. Define the knowledge, skills, and abilities required to perform the jobs identified as desirable and appropriate for guests. Number 2, or the second step, set clear expectation. Make sure that guests know exactly what you expect them to do and that they are physically able, mentally prepared, and sufficiently skilled to do those tasks. Show the guests that performing the task is to their benefit. Give them the reason to do tasks well. And the third step and last step for managing quasi-employees is to evaluate guest ability and willingness to perform well. One task performance is underway, evaluate the guest ability and willingness to do tasks well or to perform well. In effect, conduct a performance appraisal on the guests to ensure that the experience being co-produced is meeting the guest expectations. If it's not, identify what needs to be fixed. Does the guest need further training? Or it is something about the setting or delivery system impeding the guest success.
Guest role, unpaid consultant. When hospitality organization asks its guests what they like or dislike about the guest experience, they become unpaid consultant and act as quality control inspector. Since their input regarding their experience will become part of information that management uses to review and adjust the service product, environment, and delivery system, the guests are acting as expert consultant in giving this important feedback to the organization. Marketers. Everyone has asked a friend or colleague about a hospitality experience. Halimbawa, may kaibigan ka nag-hotel, tas nag-ask ka about sa kanya kung maganda ba ang service o pagkain dun sa hotel na yon, tas yung friend mo, sabik na sabik siyang pag-usapan yung mga hindi magaganda experience niya doon. Guests are excellent marketers for good or bad services. They are asked by their friends and acquaintances for their opinion in both face-to-face communication and through web-based social networking, media, and this word of mouth can make or break a hospitality organization. Recognizing the power of this marketing medium, the customer, especially when the service experience is bad, is an important part of the manager's responsibility and will be covered in a greater detail in the chapter on fixing service failure. Guests as part of each other's experience. If you enjoy simply watching other guests, you may think of them as part of the service environment. If other guests are especially important to your enjoyment of your experience, you might even consider them as part of the service products itself. Guests as co-producers. The most important way in which guests can participate other than simply being there is as active co-producers of the guest experience during all parts of the service experience. They can actually become participants in the production and delivery system. Advantage of co-production for organization. The organization gains several advantages by having the guests co-produce their experience. First, co-production may reduce employees' costs. Generally, the more guests do for themselves, the fewer employees the organization needs to employ. In addition to being obvious labor saving strategy, co-production allows the organization to use talents of its employees better. Advantage of co-production for guests. It can decrease the opportunity for service failure while increasing the perception and perhaps the actuality of service quality. The opportunity for the self-service typically reduces the time required for services. Self-service reduces the risk of unpleasant surprises for the guest. Disadvantage of co-production for the organization. 1. Participation exposes the organization to legal risks. 2. The organization may have to spend extra money to train the customer contact employees so that they can add to their usual serving jobs. The task of both recognizing when the guests are ready to co-produce and when they are not, and then communicating effectively and easily about what guests are supposed to do. Disadvantage of co-production for the guests. For the guests, prospective co-production can have disadvantages. The most obvious one is that paying guests may resent having to produce any part of that for which they are paying. Some task-oriented guests don't particularly want much guest server interaction. They want, for example, a quick meal. The highest cause of failure. While satisfactory or unsuccessful co-production can be a minor annoyance to restaurant patron, it can be distressed if the cause of failure is great. The best hospitality organization makes every effort to ensure the guests succeed as co-producers, but the risk of failure is always there. Motivating guests to co-produce. Guests can safely participate when they have the necessary knowledge, skills, and ability to create the service product. But the guests must be motivated in the process. Like employees, guests will be motivated to perform when they can some economic psychological, or social benefits in participation. Many guests are motivated to participate because of the economic incentive available to those who take a role in their own guest experience. Others are motivated by their personalities or their familiarity with the experience being offered, or they are simply looking for something to do while waiting for the other parts of the guest experience to take place. Center of attention. Some people just like to be the center of attention and seek opportunities to be on stage. In a simple situation, Joe wants to show his friends how well known he at Rob's restaurant, so he goes and gets his own coffee or refills his partner's ice water instead of waiting for the server. Even more on the stage is the person who volunteers to sing in the karaoke bar or be drenched by Shamu in the SeaWorld's demonstration. Many people enjoy showing off, and hospitality organizations should try to provide appropriate opportunities for them somewhere in the service delivery system. Guests as substitute for management. Guests can serve in a quasi-managerial role as an official supervisor and motivation of employees. They can even supervise and train other guests. Guests as supervisor. Guests have more contact with the service personnel, speak with them more often, and see more of their job performance than the organization supervisor do. Guests have the opportunity and the motivation to act as supervisor and provide immediate feedback as to whether an employee is making them happy or unhappy. Guests as motivator. Having guests participate in supervision can be highly motivating to employees when guests tell them in both verbal and nonverbal ways what a good job they are doing. Most hospitality employees find a great enjoyment in meeting and exceeding the expectation of guests. Guests as supervisor and trainees for the other guests. Guests can also supervise and train each other. We all learn from watching others, and with so many people in the most hospitality situation on a typical day or occasion, we can learn what we're supposed to do to enjoy the experience by observing the others.
Determining when guest participation makes sense. Sometimes both the organization and the guests benefit from guest participation and sometimes not. Distinguishing when, where, and how much the guest should or should not be involved in any part of the guest experience depends on a variety of factors. Co-producing the service is in the interest of guests when they can gain value, reduce risk, or improve the quality of their experience. Co-production is in the organization's interest when it can save money, increase production efficiency, or differentiate its service from competitors. Enriching the wait. In guest participation, guests are required to wait for service. Organizations should try to decrease the feeling that the wait is too long by giving guests something to do. For example, when there's a delayed flight, they can encourage passengers to participate in a sing-along. Passengers will get the opportunity to keep active while they are waiting for their flight to take off. It will also enhance their experience. Co-producing value. While some hospitality situations require participation and some guests look for opportunities to participate no matter what, almost everyone is happy to co-produce if it adds value to their experience. By definition, value can be added by reducing costs, increasing quality, or both. Costs include not only the price but also the other costs incurred by being involved in the guest experience. Guests who want to be sure of service quality may want to participate in providing service. Another cost of co-production for the guest is the risk that the service may not meet their expectations. Guests who co-produce their experiences minimize the risk that the hospitality employee will not provide exactly what they wanted. For example, when booking for a hotel reservations, the hotels that they contact may be more interested in selling them the most profitable rooms than the price, types, or rooms they wanted. Hospitality organizations have learned that they can make a lot of money by letting customers do some self-services, cutting costs and increasing capacity. From organization's point of view, the most obvious reason to incorporate the guest into the guest experience is to save money. Whenever guest produces or co-produces the service, the guest is providing labor to the organization so they will not have to hire for additional staffs. The second reason is to increase production efficiency or increase capacity utilization. Letting customers co-produce increases the number of customers who can be handled without increasing labor cost. For example, they may offer a buffet style on their restaurant when they can provide meal to guests without paying for people who will serve them. The establishment can gain income without overusing its human resources. Guests, on the other hand, can choose the food they want to eat and the amount of food they want to have. Employing a differentiation strategy. Organizations can also use guest participation as part of product differentiation strategy. For example, the cook your own restaurant that sells the experience of doing it yourself to distinguish itself from other restaurants. This restaurant will provide the environment that produces not only food but also the fun and good experiences. Building commitment. A final reason for letting guests participate is to build guest commitment and repeat business. Getting the guests involved in the guest experience is a positive way for the guests to feel ownership in that experience and loyalty to the organization that provides this opportunity. Many organizations try hard to build such relationships because they recognize the lifetime value of a loyal repeat customer. For example, some organizations conduct frequent flyer and frequent guest programs that designed to build attachment so that customers come back time after time to the organization that knows them. The bottom line, cost versus benefits. The key to deciding when to offer the guest the opportunity to participate is to do a simple cost-benefits analysis. The organizations need to be sure, for both itself and the guest, that the benefits of participation outweigh the cost. Advantage and disadvantage of guest co-producing services. For guests, advantage: reduce service costs, increase interest, save service time, improve quality, reduce risk, chance to show up. Disadvantage: may frustrate guests, may diminish service level, may not have needed KSS, required a learning curve period. For organization, advantages: reduce labor costs, improves quality, reduce service failures, new market niche, enriches employees' job. Disadvantages: increases liability risk, guest training costs, increases needs for employee training, increases design costs, may interfere with other units, variability in guests.
Inviting guests to participate. Guidelines. The basic point is that some but not all situations lend themselves to using self-service or guest participation for all guests. Two strategies. Inform market. First, they can let their market segment know that everyone entering the service setting must provide some of the service themselves. No one goes into a McDonald's expecting table service. Give guest choice. The service strategy is to segment the service processes so that the guests entering the service settings can choose to participate or not. One can order off the menu or choose from the buffet at some restaurants that have learned that some guests wish to gain the advantages of serving themselves while others come to the restaurant expecting service and others are willing to pay it. Firing the guest. Abrupt firing. The termination of the hospitality relationship must be occasionally be dramatic and abrupt, perhaps even implemented by a security guard, large personnel wearing an event staff t-shirts, or bouncer. Dramatic firing should occur when customers threaten the well-being of or safety of other customers, employees, or themselves. No organization should tolerate a customer who is threatening, excessively rude or loud, or dangerous to others or self. If any customer threatens or endangers the physical and mental health of an employee, that employee should be empowered to tell the offer to go elsewhere for the service, as this organization is unavailable to continue rendering it. Subtle firing. Customers can also be fired subtly. Everyone realized that organization place their advertising so that their target markets will see it. Very commercial, a company televised athletic events, but organizational advertising can also be carefully placed so that some customers never see the ads for a service, never get promotional mailing, or are never offered premium for using the service. Sometimes this strategy is even more overt, such as cruise lines' refusal to allow unaccompanied children under 18 to book passage, or a resort hotel's unwillingness to book a convention of ex-convict, or a sign in a gift shop, no shoes, no shirt, no service. Maintaining guest dignity. Not even hospitality organizations are required to extend unlimited hospitality. They should, of course, give guests the benefits of the doubt, but for those few guests who are demonstrably unable to participate appropriately in the experience that all have come to the hospitality provider to enjoy, the organization should not hesitate to hand them their hats and show the exits. If at all possible, however, the dismissal should be accomplished with minimal harm to the guest's physical or mental well-being and dignity. The guest who feels unfairly treated, who is really angry about being dismissed or fired, can become a source of long-term negative publicity and bad-mouthing. Firing airlines passengers. Referring to customers who treat Southwest Airlines customers badly. Herb Kelleher says, "When we encounter a customer like that, we say to him we don't want to see you again because of the way you treat our people." Kelleher says firmly that the customers is not always right. If a passenger is abusive to a Southwest employee, Kelleher may call the passenger on the phone. Customers complain to management are common. Management complaints to customers are unusual. Employees appreciate this kind of support. The airlines in particular are having trouble with guests. In 1997, over 1,000 incidents occurred on airplanes and in terminal under U.S. jurisdiction, including passengers becoming angry at flight crews, punching attendants, trying to open an emergency door, headbutting a co-pilot, and trying to break into a cockpit. Some airlines now equip each plane with a set of plastic handcuffs.